web portal for local agriculture radio programming in central Illinois. IllinoisFarmRadio.com. Local farm programming streamed live and archived to hear anytime. IllinoisFarmRadio.com. Hear the morning and noon farm shows with local agriculture news and interviews. IllinoisFarmRadio.com. Plus, hear all of your favorite agriculture farm shows, including RFD Illinois, AgriTalk, RFD Today, and the Closing Market Report. IllinoisFarmRadio.com. It's agriculture grown locally, streamed live, and archived to hear anytime. IllinoisFarmRadio.com. A service of the Miller Media Group.
WHOW is Central Illinois' ag station, and that includes providing farmers information on how the commodity markets close each day and week. I'm Todd Gleason from Illinois Public Media, University of Illinois Extension, inviting you to hear the daily closing market report weekday afternoons at 5:06, and on Saturdays, tune in for Commodity Week with a review of the week's markets at 8:30 in the morning, all on WHOW AM, FM, and streamed online.
News time is 8 minutes after 8 o'clock on this Friday. Top of the morning from the newsroom of Regional Radio and DeWittDailyNews.com. I'm Seth Lawrence with this expanded 8 o'clock newscast. Christina Deerwester has resigned from the DeWitt County Board. Board Chair Joe Whitty told Regional Radio Deerwester resigned Thursday morning. She was involved in a back and forth with a resident regarding a special use permit for a kennel in rural DeWitt County at last Thursday's DeWitt County Board meeting. After the vote was taken to approve the application, Deerwester left the meeting and did not return. Whitty indicates the board will declare the vacancy at its August meeting. Many opponents to Trump's big, beautiful bill have spoken out on its impact to rural health care. While he admits it could impact rural health care facilities, CEO of Warner Hospital in Clinton, Paul Skowron, told Regional Radio on the WHOW Morning Show Thursday it will have a minimal impact on the city-owned facility because of its lack of reliance on Medicaid dollars.
The bulk of the big, beautiful bill regarding health care is effects on the Medicaid program as opposed to Medicare. And we'll get to the Medicare part later, but on the Medicaid, the part of the bill that actually was enacted, there are reductions in Medicaid reimbursement that will be enacted starting in January 1 that will be spread over 10 years. And it affects all hospitals, but it affects hospitals differently based on what is your total percentage of Medicaid patients compared to your total. So specific to rural hospitals, there are many rural hospitals that have a high Medicaid component. Warner Hospital does not have a high Medicaid component. 20% of our patients are Medicaid, but we're 45% Medicare. So think about that. It's the people over 65 years old. Medicaid is a federal program. Both of them are federal programs. State by state, there was a different subsidy level, and Illinois had a higher, in the years past, we accessed the Affordable Care Act so that more people in our particular state accessed Medicaid than some states like Arkansas that did not access the Affordable Care Act. So there is concern amongst all of the healthcare industry in Illinois, across the United States, but in Illinois specifically, in states like us, who had access to more of that Medicaid federal assistance. In metropolitan areas that are safety net hospitals in poor neighborhoods that have very high Medicaid populations, it's actually devastating. And in some rural areas that have high Medicaid populations. So who would that be? Think about more southern Illinois hospitals that have very few employers in their neighborhood. There is a couple of cities that rely on a prison as their major employer.
Skowron calls Warner Hospital rural light because of its minimal reliance on Medicare, thanks to major employers that are set up in communities around Clinton that offer good insurance. Warner Hospital is able to tap into.
Warner Hospital is very lucky. I've always called us rural light because we have decent-sized metropolitan cities to the north, south, east, and west. Bloomington Normal, Decatur, Springfield, Champaign. And so many of the people that live in DeWitt County are employed at State Farm or Caterpillar or at Illinois State University in Millikan. And so all of those folks have good insurance. They're not on Medicaid or Medicare. And that's why I call us rural light. We are only 20 to 40 miles from any of those cities. You go south of I-70 all the way down to Marion, Illinois, those are really rural. Like in Robinson, Illinois, it's 75 miles to the next healthcare facility. They have a lot of Medicaid, and they're on a list of hospitals in the state that could really be materially impacted. Warner Hospital is not one of those.
While the impact is minimal, Skowron notes they are going to do an evaluation of its expenditures. He calls it a good exercise and remains unconcerned by the impacts of the big, beautiful bill.
Both of our senators have sent a letter to every hospital on July 25th. Both Senator Durbin and Senator Ducksworth saying, this bill is out, and we would like you to tell us what is the projected financial impact for the next year, 3, 5, and 10 years. And honestly, it's about a 4% negative impact. It's not a financial loss. It just reduces our profit, our gross margin, by about 4%. We can manage that. There won't be any reduction in services, but it's a good exercise for us from a budget standpoint and projecting how we're going to spend our money in the future. And so I said, this is a good time, not just to look at next year's budget as we're already doing, but let's look at the capital expenditures for the next 3 years. Let's look at all of our outside contracted services like radiology readings and emergency room and lab services, anything where we're spending money that we don't have the services locally. Let's look at all those contracts and make sure we're getting the best service that we can. So it's a very good exercise to go through, but I am not concerned about the financial impact to Warner Hospital.
The big, beautiful bill will have an impact on reimbursements to Illinois, and Skowron is watching Springfield for how lawmakers will react to those reductions in reimbursements.
That is specific to Illinois, and that is the part that, and the governor has said he needs to look at he did look at the state budget with that in mind, because perhaps 2 years ago, it wasn't anticipated that there would be reductions in Medicaid reimbursement specific to Illinois. And so it does affect the state of Illinois, and they have to plan appropriately for future Medicaid services. You know, federally, they talked about immigration and how certain states like Illinois, specifically Chicago area, has a lot of immigrants and maybe illegal immigrants that were getting healthcare services paid for by the state of Illinois. The governor and the Springfield legislature has to look at, you know, the reality of cutting back on services in areas where illegal immigrants had been accessing healthcare, and they're doing that. A trickle-down effect that was considered for some rural hospitals that have high Medicaid components is if those patients don't have Medicaid insurance, will they then start coming to the emergency room like the old days and getting free uncompensated care? In those areas that have high Medicaid components, yes, that may be in effect. But for us, 0.001 of 1%, just a negligible impact to our emergency room service.
Skowron will be watching the fall session in Washington, D.C., where there are rumblings of cuts coming to Medicaid. News time is 8:15 on this Friday. DeWitt County Clerk Carrie Harris has announced she will be running for another term on the Republican primary ticket in March of 2026. Harris was elected in 2022, taking the elected position when then County Clerk Dana Smith retired. Harris has 24 years of experience in the county clerk's office. During that time, she has been the payroll accounting clerk and elections clerk, touting her knowledge of all jobs and services within the office. In a release to announce her candidacy Thursday, Harris touted the grants she's pursued, which have put nearly $60,000 back in the county's election fund. She has made it a priority to help county residents enroll in a property fraud alert program that is free to the citizens and to the county to help identify fraudulent documents and protect landowners and citizens of DeWitt County. She's also launched the Honor Rewards program for veterans, which issues a card for discounts and incentives offered by county-wide businesses that that sign up to participate. She also implemented a card machine in the office, allowing customers to pay for services via debit or credit card, and was able to give the office a new look by having high ceiling walls removed, so customers are now able to see all employees. Harris took advantage of the ARPA funds, or American Rescue Plan Act funds, to complete a project started by Smith, which digitized the final years of recording, making all recorded documents from 1965 through current date accessible online. A lifelong resident of DeWitt County, Harris says she's made it her goal to serve the residents of the county with the utmost respect, transparency, and honesty. The dog days of summer have many dreaming of those fall months, which means Clinton's biggest event of the year is right around the corner. Joey Long, director of the C.H. Moore Homestead and DeWitt County Museum, explains they have begun preparing for the annual Apple and Pork Festival, starting all the way back in January.
They start working on the Apple and Pork Festival preparations in January. So we've been months long working on this. The flea market spaces have been going very well. I suspect that we'll probably be sold out of flea market spaces by the end of next week. Only a few left. We had a lot of returning flea market vendors, saying that, the last year or two, they had a really good year. And that sellout is even with, adding additional spaces where we could squeeze more in. So doing very well there. And I know that all of the nonprofits that are involved with the food tents on the ground, they're having a meeting soon. And so we look forward to bringing those people back and offering all those good foods to everyone. I think there may still be some openings in the fine art show in the crafters tent. If anyone was interested in that, they're welcome to contact the museum and we can see if we could find a fit for them there.
Long indicates while the volunteers they have are very strong, they could always use more hands to prepare the homestead, as well as work some of the food booths and help inside the mansion for tours during the festival.
Warner,
I will say that our volunteers are strong, the people that come and help us. But I will say that we certainly could use more help. We would be happy to see those numbers grow. So we need volunteers in all areas. We need volunteers in the food booths. The museum actually operates some of those food stands and other places as well. And I'm always looking for volunteer docents in the house while we're open for tours. I'm actually getting ready to start working on that here pretty soon. So if someone's out there and listening and they think that they might like to be a docent, just come and see what that would be like. It's only 4 hours is how much time you're giving. And I will add that the house is air conditioned and we have a roof. Back to some of those really wet festivals we've had, or you're thinking back to some of those really hot festivals we had, or if it's cold, we also have heat. So you have the comfort. Oh, and indoor plumbing. So that would definitely be a few perks, if you would want to help the museum out in that way.
This year's 57th annual Apple and Pork is the 57th, I should say, annual Apple and Pork Festival, and Long expects to have a good turnout, especially for this year's entertainment.
It always falls on the last full weekend of September, and I believe this year does that put it at 27 and 28? Right. It'll be the 57th annual entertainment. It is all set. I think people can expect pretty much what we had last year for the stage. And the entertainment acts are sponsored by Constellation. We're always grateful to them for that. And then a portion of the stage rental is covered by First National Bank.
This year, again, the Apple and Pork Festival falls September 27 and 28 at the Homestead. The annual event brings in tens of thousands of visitors to the city. News time, 21 minutes after 7 o'clock here on this Friday. A nice cool down after a couple of weeks of very intense heat in Illinois has been welcome, but don't anticipate it sticking around. Ed Shimon at the National Weather Service in Lincoln indicates a cooler than normal signal starts August, but it should warm up after the short reprieve.
Yeah, through the 6th, the tendency is below normal temps. It's near normal precipitation. But beyond that, once we start the 4th through the 10th, we have above normal returning, so above normal temps, right around near normal precipitation as well. So it's probably going to heat back up as we head into the state fair, which starts on the 7th. We're going to be helping out with that each day. But the second week of August, probably going to return to some mid 80s is normal. So if it's above normal, you're going to be seeing the upper 80s again. Dew point wise, I'm not sure we're going to quite peg as high as we are now, but certainly, with the corn still in full swing, I bet we will see dew points climb back into the 70s again.
Those planning to attend the state fair in a few weeks will encounter some typical summer heat. Shimon indicates there is a signal for above normal temperatures, and while he doesn't anticipate intense heat, it will still be warm.
Yeah, it's looking above normal temps, below normal precip. The 9th through the 22nd is that 3 to 4 week outlook, and it's not intense heat. We're just 33 to 40% chance of above normal temps, but it could be in the normal mid 80s. For highs and muggy. So plan to be, getting that sunscreen out and drink lots of water for the state fair this year. It doesn't look like, a real big cool snap during the fair at all.
With the intense heat of the last few weeks and more likely in August, Shimon is sending out reminders of heat safety, particularly as it relates to leaving children and pets in vehicles.
Yeah, we had a renewed campaign, especially for vehicular, like when kids are left in vehicles. The safety of kids, you forget, you run into a building, you're like, oh, I'm only going to be in there a minute, and things change. Leaving kids in cars was one of the campaigns that we were kind of trying to promote and make sure, look before you lock is the key thing there. And, make sure that nobody is left behind like that. And we have had some vehicular kids that pass away in vehicles this year, unfortunately. So we're trying to remedy that and just make sure in your busy lives, you always are making sure there's nobody left. It only takes 10 minutes for your car to climb from, like what would be comfortable 70 in the air conditioning to 100 in about 10 minutes.
Weather.gov/Lincoln is the best place for all things forecast and weather data. You can also follow the National Weather Service on Facebook and X. Get news anytime from your computer or mobile device at DeWittDailyNews.com.
It's somewhere